Hey everybody, it's Playing Baked and we're back with Minecraft Feed the Beast. I'm going to devote this episode to Craft OS. Because long story short, I haven't really figured out what to do with Feed the Beast. I kind of want to make a series out of it, but I haven't really found a good server to play on, and it's kind of pointless single player because nothing is preventing me from spawning in stuff, and I see Minecraft with mods a bit different. Mods are great fun, but a lot of them are basically making it slightly more creative while you're still in survival. There's also a bunch of mods that just add adventure or enhance the survival multiplayer. But there's a lot of it that's just mainly there to make it a bit more creative, make stuff a little bit less tedious, like mining for resources. Um, so yeah, playing with mods is fun, but for single player it's a bit pointless because you basically should just spawn in the stuff and explore what the mods can do, and that's that. And that's no fun for you guys, and that's no fun for me guys, so yeah. While I'm trying to figure out a proper server to play on, or how to make it so I don't cheat on myself and you guys, um, I've been basically mucking around with turtles to try and figure out something for when I start a proper map, pretty much. That's why I made the TBM script, not just because I was bored of making them manually, because I figured, hey, when I start on a new map, I just want to run this script and bam, there's a TBM that will mine the rest for me. Um, Aside the fact that I still need to grind the materials to put in the first script, but that's aside the point. Um, yeah, long story, still following me, sort of, maybe, maybe not, but let's give it a go. I kind of like the turtles. That's what it boils down to, and that's what you've seen so far. So yeah, I made some stuff aside this fantastic TBM builder thingamajig. Um, and I've basically reinvented the wheel. And yeah, that should be quite funny. First, I'm going to show you another script. Because one of the things, as you may notice here, that I'm interested in is the beekeeping mod. I think it's part of... I don't know. I don't know. So I'm not going to say stuff that I don't know. But yeah, the bee mod, extra bees and bees from forestry, but I'm not too sure, so I didn't say anything. But yeah, I like it. I want to explore in it when I get situated. But one of the things that I noted was they are probably going to steer away from the old apiaries, and you'll be needing the alvearies. And it's 3 by 3 by 3 of the alveary blocks with these slabs on top, and then it turns into a alveary multi-block structure thingamdig. And that's all great, but it's not fun to build, so there we go. This is going to make an alveary for me. This also gives me a moment to explain something about programming and coding. Well, actually I'm not going to explain anything about coding, I just want to throw out an analogy here for you. If coding is a language, and you know, just like a baby only talks in dada and blah blah and other baby nonsense, and a toddler knows some words, and you can have a bit of a conversation with a 5-year-old and a proper one without much thought into it with a 10-year-old, and so on. My coding skill is a bit on par with the language skill of a 10-year-old, so to say. It's not good, but it's proficient enough that I can make a turtle move, and that I know that I need to add error correcting and stuff like that, but it's just too much hassle. So when I go through one of these scripts that I made, yeah, you've been warned. It's not pretty. For example, I'm not going to go through all of this, but I'll assume you know something about programming or coding, and one of the things is that you try and put things into functions, so you can call the function instead of having to write down every single step. And in this script it's pretty straightforward. So at the end it calls one function. It's the function build, and we're not going to go back up all the way. This is quicker. Build calls several other functions. It calls layer 1 3 times, and then it calls layer 4. I probably should have named it better, but whatever. Layer 1 does alv and back 3 times, and then the return command, well, the return function. And layer 4 is similar, but it doesn't do alv and back, it does slab and back, because as you heard before, it's 3 layers of alveary blocks and 1 layer of slab. So each of these is similar as well. For every row, it well, actually, it how do I put it? The first function build calls those layers, and 1 layer is 3 rows. So 1 row, like alv and back, calls 3 separate things. 1 to put a block on the left, 1 to put a block on the right, 1 to go back and put a block in front of it. And I can show the separate functions, but believe me, it does that. Then it moves to the next layer, and rinse and repeat, pretty much the same deal. So yeah, you may notice there is not a lot of error checking. There's no advanced things like checking for fuel. I also wrote these for my own use, so I know when my turtles don't have fuel because I'm only using turtles that have fuel, um, stuff like that. So it's just a lot of extra work if I put it in for myself, and by the time I share some script like this, I either put it in or make sure that I leave in a comment saying it assumes fuel, throw in fuel first before you run it, stuff like that. Great. Okay. Yeah, the alveary thing is something I thought would eventually be useful, so let's make it anyway. Um, while making this script and before, while making the turtle, sorry, excuse me, while making the TBM script, I already noticed that often my turtles weren't in the most optimal position, and as you can see here, there's a couple of scripts down, forward, left, um, stuff like that. It just moves around like forward, and it just forward actually just calls turtle.forward. Let's learn to type. Yep, it just calls turtle.forward. It's no rocket science, but it's a bit shorter as going into the Lua every time and typing in stuff that you need to do, and then exiting the Lua again and running your script. Especially if it's not just a single step that you need to do, but multiple. So I decided to reinvent the wheel, and I made, let's pick this one because it's waiting for that. And I yeah, reinvented the wheel and put together all the separate walk commands that I could imagine, and I uh, I made something out of it. Let's get that guy on a prompt so I can quickly go to it. And we'll have this guy to show a running example. I replaced the startup script. Actually, I copied the file to the name startup. But yeah, if you have a script called startup, it will always run that when you initialize the Turtle OS. Yeah, it's really not that horribly complex, but there is a lot of lines of code behind it. A lot. And some might seem pretty complex at first, but it's all on the level of a 10-year-old, so to speak. So we we can briefly go into it. So again, at the very last line, I have a call to a function that handles the entire thing. What you may have noticed is that it starts with a question if you want to start. I wanted to have in it a feature that it would always ask me if I wanted to do additional moves. Um, but I also didn't want to get caught in some crazy loop that I couldn't escape. And if you initialize the loop without something explaining that you're going to go into the loop, if I were to share this, then it would be pretty awkward. So I needed to get into that loop without causing something to go wrong. And this was the best thing that I could imagine. Actually, let's place down a second one here so I don't have to scroll all the way to the top. But yeah. No, actually it's near the bottom as well. So it calls the function check. Check check only contains a while loop. So it says while the variable again is on number 1, do the following. The first thing that it does is set the variable to 0. So if the variable doesn't get updated, it will end the while loop, and then it calls the function again. And the function again is pretty much the let's go back up. So yeah, this is the initializing part, and then it says this. Wow. Nope, that one. So yeah, welcome to Go. Are you ready to go? Type Y to continue. That's the initializing part. It gives the question on the screen to type Y to continue, and it says on this line to look for the input of Y, and anything else just causes the loop to end without setting the variable to 0, and that returns it to the check function, and that stops, so it returns the prompt. Yay! If you do give Y as input, it starts the interface. All clear? All clear. So the interface is pretty straightforward. It's a similar setup. It goes into an if statement, and the if just looks for what you type in, and if it matches any of this, it starts the function that goes along with it. So there are, as you may notice, several ways to call the same function. If I type in write, it will call the function write, but if I type in the abbreviation R, it also calls the function write. Wrong one. And from there on, it's down to each individual function. So for example, if we pick forward, it asks, great, forward, but how far? Then it again calls for some input. The input gets shoved into a variable and is also made into a number type instead of a string type, so you can actually compare a number to a number instead of comparing apples to oranges. You actually compare apples to apples, which is something a computer can do. And so yeah, if you give it a number, it will do this part for the amount of numbers you give it, and this in the case of forward, it does a dig and then a step forward. My down function digs down and then goes down. My up digs up and then goes up. So that's pretty straightforward. There is a turtle.back parentheses thingy function, which straightforward does a step back, but I didn't know if you could chain that very well, including a dig back. So instead of using the back, I decided to make it turn around and then go forward instead of back, and then turn around again. So yeah, that's a slight change, but other than that, there is a step left and a step right, and that's pretty similar. It first turns left or right and then goes forward and then turns the other way around again. So yeah, that pretty much does it. There's also a credits and help, and yeah, I really like it. It's pretty much reinventing the wheel all over again, but it doesn't have a stock walking thingy, so I needed one, and I needed some practice, so why not reinvent the wheel? Also, we're going to go through a couple of examples. So here we can see it go forward 5 blocks, and then it goes back to the start of the loop and to the main screen. So yeah, welcome to go. Are you ready to go? And if you type yes to kick in the actual loop, it also clears the screen. I had this on the wrong spot first, so when I did help, it actually printed all the commands on the screen and then cleared the screen again. So stuff like that is sorted, but it's still a bit of a mess. Although it should technically work if you fuel it. So I'm probably going to post the pastebin file of this in the description. And yeah, that's about all there is to it. So we're going to give it a couple of more commands to give you a good idea. So oops, did I type 50? Yep, I typed 50. Great. Bye bye. Let's use one of these guys, or this guy. So if you remember correctly, we first have to tell it to go, and then yeah, let's go forward, and let's go up, and Oops, that's not it. And let's do something crazy. Let's go back. Let's go back. How far? 5. So it turns around, goes 5 forward, and turns around again. Very important. Yeah. And I don't know. So the shortcut for step right or step left is left forward right or right forward left. Let's go 5 steps. Pretty much. Is there any extra command that I need to show? I thought I did commands as well, but oh well. I'll sort that one out. But yeah. Walk, forward, back, up, down, left, right. I think I've shown pretty much all there is to it. I'm pretty proud, despite that it's very ugly, very primitive, and very much reinventing the wheel, but it rolls around, so I'm happy. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Okay, I cleaned it up a bit, and it works a lot better. I realized what I was doing wrong. It's a bit hard to explain without making it too technical boring, but I've added the same calls to the function before the loop as while in the loop, if that makes any sense. Oh, maybe it helps if I add what I wanted to open, but if you remember from earlier, I had it all the way down here, call check, which did the again thing, and it called again, which is up here somewhere. And you may notice a small change. It's a lot longer and redundant, because in the function again I initially had it just check for y and then call the main program, and I added all the interface things in here as well. So with a bit of changing the text as well, it now always does accept the input that I wanted to accept, if it makes any sense. So first is if you entered anything aside y, it would stop, and now you can also call any of the things you want to do. And if you enter y, you go into the loop, so it'll always ask again, and there we go. The only change now is that the second time you go into it, it will ask again if you want to go back into the loop, which I'm not too sure if that's what I want, but yeah. I'll need to think about that. Um, it's probably okay. It's not too big of a hassle. But yeah, that's what I changed. It makes a lot more sense now. Uh, Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ooh, one last thing before you go. I changed one of the default programs. Um, yeah, programs. Er, there's one here. It's called pastebin. It's really good. However, I got really tired of having to uh, type over what I saw on the screen into a browser. So I looked around in the files because this is a protected bit of script. Um, if you just open it like this and try to edit it and save it, it says access denied. However, if you just go into the ComputerCraft folder, um, you can easily access this. It isn't in the ComputerCraft OS source code or anything, but it's a hidden program basically. Um, so I copied it to the root, and that lets you alter it. So what I did, I really brute forced this and added these 3 lines. Um, it just creates a file, last PB URL in the write mode, then it writes the uploaded as response variable, and it closes the file and it prints that it created the file last PB URL. That's it. There's no error checking. It just creates the file, dumps the variable in it, and closes it. So yeah, if I open that, I gave it a name that wouldn't be frequently used just in case. But yeah, if I just open that, it gives the proper URL. And the good thing is that this is actually a file inside the turtle folder, the one that you need to figure out which of the folders it is if you have a trillion of turtles, but if you just have one and you labeled it immediately, you shouldn't have a problem finding that folder. It's just in your will directory, and then go to ComputerCraft and you'll see there's a couple of folders inside that and one for each turtle, so yeah, there's a new file there that you can just open in Notepad or WordPad or WritePad or whatever the balls it is that you use, and double click it and it will select it, and you can actually copy and paste it in your browser instead of having to type it. Long story short, if you want the new pastebin that just spits out a file name containing the proper URL, download this one.